and prioritizing yourself, your health, your happiness. It's amazing, and well done already. So this is a huge topic to cover, and I absolutely love talking about this topic because in this modern day that we're living in, there is not a single person who is not in some way being affected by chronic stress, some form of nervous system dysregulation, and everything that comes with that. So it's such an important topic for us to talk about. And I think it's something that's largely neglected by the modern medical system. So here we are. So in the modern day, we are all so overstimulated, we are overworking, we're over expecting of ourselves, and we're also living in environments that are overloading toxins into our system, and that's just stressing our whole system out. So we have literally got stress coming in from every single angle in the modern day. And most importantly, we also don't have the relaxation practices that we used to have. So we're so busy that we don't make time for stillness, we don't make time for breathing, for grounding, and doing all of those things that our ancestors intuitively did. So that's a huge part of the chronic stress epidemic that we're living in. So if we've connected on Instagram, you probably already know part of my story, but I just want to recap briefly. So my health journey really started about 6 years ago when I had a brain injury. So I fell off a wall when I was traveling, and that brain injury lasted for about 18 months. So that just dramatically changed my life, and it really made me start to look at health as something that I wanted to prioritize, because I really didn't want to be in a position where I was going to lose my health again. So that sent me on to the topic of holistic healing and holistic health. But then over the following years, obviously, life doesn't always go to plan. So this is when I really found that chronic stress and a dysregulated nervous system was at the root of all of the issues I was suffering with. So I had some existing issues which chronic stress was making worse. So that was like my endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, I had acne and some digestive issues. And chronic stress was making all of those so much worse. When I had a stressful job or I had a stressful period of life, those symptoms would get significantly worse. And then it also created so many symptoms of its own. So at my most stress points, I was having autoimmune system symptoms. So I was having muscle and joint pain that was so bad that when I'd wake up each morning, I literally couldn't move my left hand because of the joint pain and the stiffness. I was having, so my hair and my nails were falling out, my nails were like crumbling off. I was having migraines like at least once a week. I was having eye twitches. I had all of these symptoms going on at the time. And all of the doctors that I saw, all of them could just tell me these things. So I was told that the birth control pill is the only treatment that's available for you. We've all heard that one. You just have IBS, which if you have ever been told you have IBS, this is simply what they diagnose you with when they just don't know what it is. So when you don't have a diagnosis for anything else, but you have digestive symptoms, then you have IBS. You need an operation, which I ended up having, and it made things so much worse. Your bloods look fine, just relax. The amount of times I was told that my symptoms are psychological, that I'm just a hypochondriac, and my personal favourite is you're just stressed, which was absolutely true, but they told me that and gave me absolutely nothing to do with it. I think they assumed that just telling me that would wipe all of my stresses away. So I think we've all been there. At least a lot of the people I've spoken to have, a lot of the clients I've worked with have, where we're going to the doctors repeatedly, we're so desperate for answers, and every single time we just leave feeling deflated and disappointed and unheard, and probably more confused than we did when we went in. So my symptoms were so bad at one point that they even told me they thought I had AIDS because my immune system was just so shot. It literally was not working. So I'll show you some photos in a moment of what was going on with my body, but that was a very scary 2 weeks when I was waiting for my test results. So all of this was making me realize that if I wanted to heal, which I was so desperate to heal and to live a happier, healthier life, then I realized I had to take it into my own hands, because the doctors weren't taking me seriously and I really wasn't getting the answers I wanted. So that is a little bit of the story about how I became a health coach and how I got onto this line of work, which I absolutely love now. And then these are just some of my symptoms that I was dealing with at the time. So, and as I said, some of my visible symptoms, because there was a lot of stuff going on internally, which you couldn't see, but I could absolutely feel. So my body was so far out of balance in pretty much every way. My nails were just cracking all the way down to the bottom. My skin was peeling everywhere. My acne was awful on my face, my chest, my back. The bloating, that bloating was 6 months pregnant bloating. It was crazy. And then, yeah, the last photo is just general sadness. I felt so upset. I felt so deflated. And there was moments where I really didn't want to carry on, because I just felt like if I don't get the answers and if I can't get myself out of this situation, then life doesn't feel worth living to me, which is a really sad thing to look back on and to say now. But yeah, makes me feel a little bit teary-eyed, but I wish I could just go back and give that version of myself a big hug, because she got out of that and she did amazingly. So yeah. So there was so many reasons for all of these symptoms. There were so many reasons why I had a dysregulated nervous system, and we'll kind of go into more of them later on in the workshop. But just to touch on a few of them. So there was past traumas from childhood that I hadn't dealt with, I hadn't released, and I definitely just tried to push under the rug, tried to ignore. Ignorance is bliss, that kind of attitude. I was living in a toxic and stressful environment, so I had certain family members who were very negative personalities and would put that a lot onto me. Negative relationships, negative friendships. I was overworking like 60 plus hours a week, and I was under resting. So I was taking no time for relaxation, no time for myself. I was binge drinking to escape a life that I really didn't love. I didn't feel fulfilled. And a huge one is that I was trying to hate my body into change, which, as we'll go into a little bit later, it's just impossible. You can't do it. We have to evolve through love, not through hate. I had poor nutrition. I was stressing my body out, my gut out. I had the most random sleep schedule you'll ever see. And then I was having caffeine the whole of the day, the whole of the waking day. And yeah, and I was just living in a mindset of negativity, overthinking, people pleasing, all of that. So I'm sure that you guys can relate to some of those things. I think that a lot of us go through so much of the same stuff, but so many of us obviously don't want to talk about it. And then it can feel very isolating. So let's break that stigma. Let's talk about it. So last point on this slide is that I never knew before studying holistic health that mental stress could be causing such physical symptoms within my body. So I always thought that the mind and the body are completely separate, as we were taught by modern medicine. But this is just not true. And I think that we intuitively know that the mind and the body are one, but we're often taught to believe differently. And I see this with my clients all the time. Their mental state is manifesting as physical symptoms, which is why working on your mindset, working on your mental state is just as important as what you eat, your exercise, your sleep, your water, all of that stuff. So you may have heard the word psychosomatics before. So this is just the study of how the mind and the body are connected. And as I said, I believe that we all intuitively know this. So I think before the conditioning and before other people and certain systems are enforcing their beliefs onto us, I think that all humans intuitively know that our body and our mind are just one system working together. So in modern medicine, they try to treat every single body part completely separately. So I remember going to the doctors at the same doctor's appointment, and I remember having skin issues. I was having issues with my sinus and like ear pain and stuff, and I was having issues with my digestion at the time, having like bloating and cramping and things, and diarrhea and constipation, all of this stuff. And they addressed each of those symptoms completely individually. So there was no thought that it could actually be linked and it could all be part of the same issue, which it was. But no, I got referred to 3 separate specialists, and obviously all of those specialists wanted to give me medications and drugs for that. So again, this is all just part of the stress situation. We go into these appointments wanting answers, we come out with prescriptions for toxic medications a lot of the time. So in my opinion, almost all conditions that we deal with in this modern age could be labeled as psychosomatic, because a psychosomatic disorder just means that it's a condition that's caused or worsened by stress. I don't know any conditions that are not worsened by stress. Every single thing that we face is definitely worsened by stress, and there's a lot of stuff that's caused by stress. So you may have seen this statistic before, but it's absolutely crazy every single time I see it, that 75% to 90% of all doctor's appointments are stress related. It's crazy, but it's not shocking because of how stressed we are and how physically stress affects us. So what we think and what we feel affects how our body reacts and responds. So when we're stressed, when we're ill, when we're injured, if we're more stressed, that just makes everything worse. And a huge thing that we need to understand if we really want to heal from chronic stress is how we as an individual cope with our stress, our traumas, our negative emotions. That's going to impact how our body is affected. So many people get easily overwhelmed and don't have the right coping strategies for stress. And that's just going to increase the negative effects that that stress is having on their body and their health. So then there's other people who may have already been on this journey before, who've developed a more positive mindset and have healthier coping mechanisms. And that means that that stress, the exact same stresses, are not going to affect them and their body as much. So truly, our mindset is so important when it comes to stress. And we can become more resilient to stress as well. So I just wanted to kickstart this workshop with a little grounding breath work. And if you see my stuff on Instagram, you'll know I absolutely love 4-7-8 breath work. I do it every single day. Now I do it even when I'm not stressed, but it used to be my go-to tool anytime I felt stressed. And it's my absolute favorite. So if you feel comfortable doing so, you can just close your eyes, and we're just going to do 4 rounds of breath. And just take a second to notice how you feel right now. So how your body feels, how your mind feels. You might have had a really stressful day. You might have had some worries that are going around your head today. So just notice how you're feeling. Sit up nice and straight and just exhale the breath that you're on right now. And you're going to inhale through your nose for 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through your mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And you can slowly bring your awareness back into the room. And just take a second to just drop into your body and see if you feel any difference now to when you went in. I know for me that breath work, even just 4 rounds of breath, I come out of it in a completely different mental and physical state to how I went in. So it's such an amazing tool that you can use. Maybe you feel more relaxed, maybe you feel more present, more grounded in the moment. So there are so many different types of breath work that you can do, ranging from a few seconds like that one to multiple hours. I mean, the longest breathwork session I've done was 2.5 hours, which takes a lot of energy, but it's absolutely incredible. So if you get the chance to do a guided meditation or a guided breathwork session, then I would absolutely take that opportunity. So the 478 is my personal favorite, but there's so many other breath works you can do. So there's like box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4, which is a really nice easy one to do to regulate your nervous system. But the most important thing to remember when you're trying to bring yourself back down to a state of groundedness and calmness, if you're feeling stressed or anxious, is make your exhale longer than your inhale. Doesn't matter by how much. Obviously, the 478 is making it double, but just making it even a second or two longer, because when you're exhaling, that is our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the one that calms us, and the inhale is a sympathetic response, which is technically your fight flight system. So that's a really useful little tip to know. And that's also why when the stress response comes online, when we are in the stress response, naturally our breathing becomes much more shallow and quick, because it's trying to get more oxygen in so that we can run away or we can fight, the bear or the tiger, whatever's meant to be in front of us. So to put it simply, we would not be alive today without the stress response. So the stress response has literally saved the human race. Every single day it continues to. So I think such an important part of healing from chronic stress, or healing from anything really, is understanding why it occurs and just a little bit of the science behind it. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but with my coaching clients, I always want to give them a bit of an explanation. I never just want them to follow my advice blindly, because we should understand how our body works. I think we should be taught this, and we should have the basic knowledge. So firstly, let me just say that the stress response is an absolutely incredible thing. And as I said, we wouldn't be alive today without it. So it's kept us aware of our surroundings and any potential dangers in our peripheries for thousands of years, and it continues to do this every single day. So it's not a bad thing, but it's not great for the modern day, because we are constantly overstimulated, we're over-consuming, and we are in stressful situations that don't require a fight or flight response. So paying bills, an argument with someone, told off by someone, your boss, all of these things that don't require us to fight or to flee. That means we have all of these stress hormones rushing around our body with nowhere to go. So that can cause the nervous system to become dysregulated in itself. Secondly, let me tell you how incredible your body is. The human body is absolutely amazing, and literally its only job is to just try to keep us alive. So our body is absolutely working for us, not against us, which is a really important part of healing from anything. We need to understand that our body is our friend, not our foe. So your autonomic nervous system, which is your automatic nervous system, activates a stress response when you're in a stressful or a potentially dangerous situation. And then this stress response brings on a whole cascade of physiological changes that are literally trying to save your life. So these changes, for anyone who's had a panic attack before, or that kind of overwhelming sense of anxiety, then you'll be familiar with these physiological changes. But these changes are not happening for no reason. So they all provide a really unique purpose in trying to save your life in a dangerous situation, not in an argument. So what happens is your pulse quickens and your blood is diverted away from your non-essential functions. So that's like your digestion, and it's redirected towards your muscles so that you can run away quicker or you can fight stronger, to your heart to get the blood pumping around, and also to your brain. So that's to help you think quicker, think better, and to try to get away from the threat in a more clever way. Your breathing becomes more rapid and shallow, as I already said a moment ago. So this is just to get more oxygen into your body to fuel your muscles and to fuel your organs better. Your blood pressure increases to make sure that more blood and therefore oxygen and nutrients, because your blood is carrying the oxygen and nutrients to every part of your body. So blood pressure increases to make sure that all of that goes to the muscles, which is just preparing your body to be able to quickly run away or to fight. And also it's your increase in blood pressure that can cause cold sweats. So if you've ever had a panic attack or something, you can know that as your nervous system's trying to reset itself afterwards, you can sometimes get kind of cold trembles. You get dilated pupils, so your eyes literally let in more light so that you can see more threats. That to me is just absolutely incredible, that my eyes know when to make themselves bigger and to see more. The adrenaline that obviously gets released when you're in the stress response. So that causes your muscles to contract and tense up in preparation to run or to fight. And that can also lead to shaking or trembling, and that's especially in the hands or legs. So sometimes when we're shaking, we've got that adrenaline racing through us. So the body doesn't want to expend any energy on the non-essential functions. It literally thinks that you're going to die if it doesn't give you every single piece of energy for your limbs and your heart and your brain. So unfortunately, that means digestion gets shut down. So sometimes when people get anxious, they get the urge to suddenly go to the toilet. And this is literally everything that's in their stomach and their intestines just trying to go through as quickly as possible. And this also very unfortunately means that you're not going to be absorbing the nutrients from the food that you're eating if you're in a state of chronic stress, because your body doesn't think it has time and energy to really digest and absorb those nutrients. So a lot of it just passes straight through. And then finally, during the stress response, the body releases glucose, so that's blood sugar, to provide that quick energy for that fight or flight reaction. So this also means that if you're someone who tries to keep your glucose levels stable and trying to avoid the glucose spikes, then if you're living in a state of chronic stress, it doesn't matter what you're eating, you're still going to be spiking your blood sugar, which is something I think a lot of people don't realize. It's not just what you eat, it's also the state that you're living in. So as you can see, stress is not just mental. Stress is a very, very physical process. And if we're living in a state of chronic stress, which so many of us are these days, myself in the past included, this means that your body is going through those physiological changes to some degree every day. And the human body is simply not built to live in that state. We're not made for it, and it's so bad for our health. So, where did it all go wrong? Why are we suddenly dealing with all of these things that we didn't used to, hundreds of years ago? So the human body actually evolved to live as hunter-gatherers in many ways. So to be in tune with nature, in tune with the sun and the moon, largely living in stillness and in silence, moving our bodies a lot throughout the day, eating when we can find food, fasting when we can't find food, but we're not over consuming and eating constantly. I've seen a statistic estimating that we now consume more data in one single day than our ancestors in the 15th century did for their entire lifetime, which is just crazy. I mean, probably an hour scrolling on TikTok is probably more data, more information than they saw in their entire lifetime, which is absolutely mental. If you think about the fact that we have the same brain, we have pretty much the same brain capacity that they had, yet we are flooding it with all of this information. No wonder it's finding it hard to cope. So we're living now in what is called an epigenetic mismatch. So this is, I find this very, very interesting. Our genetics as humans has barely changed in 20,000 years. So evolution happens very, very, very slowly. So 20,000 years, we have almost the same genetics as we did back then. But think about how much our environment has changed in that time. And by environment, I don't just mean where we're living, I also mean the food we're eating, the lifestyle we're living, the movement that we're doing, the exercise, the amount of sleep we're getting, all of the toxins that we're overloaded with, etc. So it literally couldn't look more different now to how it did 20,000 years ago. And we have simply just not evolved at the same rate as our environment. And this is causing a huge rise in the chronic conditions, the chronic inflammation, and the chronic stress. And that is the basis of this entire workshop. And that is essentially the problem. So your DNA, so your genetics, think of them as a pack of cards. So you can't change them. You can't change the cards that you were dealt. However, you can change the way you play the cards. So you can change your genetic expression by changing your environment and all of those things, nutrition, sleep, lifestyle, etc. Which is such an empowering thing to know, because for so long in science, there was just this belief that you literally can't affect your genes at all. You cannot change them or the way they're expressed. But actually, that's not true. And we have so much more power than we think. So our genetics are a little bit like, our genes are a little bit like a dimmer switch. So our lifestyle will either be turning up certain dimmer switches, certain genes, or turning them down. So for example, you may have the gene for a disease that's run in your family, but through your lifestyle, you could be turning that gene all the way down or all the way up. So that's how much of an impact your lifestyle, environment, nutrition, etc. has on your genes. We all have these modern stresses that we never used to have 20,000 years ago. We didn't even have them 300 years ago. So this is like work deadlines, and we're commuting on a busy train in the morning, we're overstimulated, we're paying bills, we're eating really inflammatory foods, we're sitting behind a desk on the chair all day and not moving much. So all of these things are just contributing to the chronic stress. And to be simple, our bodies don't know what the hell is going on. Our body still thinks that if we're stressed, we need to fight or we need to flee. It doesn't understand that we can have all of this stress, but not need to do anything about it, not need to expend that physical energy. So this is an issue. The brain cannot distinguish between real, anticipated, or imagined stress, which is crazy. So this means that if there's a tiger actually in front of you, if you anticipate that the tiger may show up, or if you imagine that the tiger is here, close your eyes and imagine, but you really vividly think about it, your body is going to activate the stress system regardless of which one of those you've done. So your brain is so intelligent in so many ways, but this is where there's a bit of a loophole. Your brain is going to respond to all of those same situations by releasing the stress hormones, and then that whole cascade of physiological changes starts happening. So this is the same for when you're remembering a past event, so a past stressful event that may have occurred. If you're reliving that a lot in your brain, you're putting yourself through that same stress system as if it was happening right now. The same goes for if you're vividly imagining a future potential stressful situation. Again, you are putting your brain through this stress response. So this is really, really important for those of us who spend a lot of time making up very stressful scenarios in our head, which I definitely used to fall victim to, be subject to. Those of us who spend time worrying about the future, anticipating what people might think or say about us or judge us, overthinking past negative or stressful situations. So this is all putting your body through the stress response. It's no wonder that so many of us are living with this low level anxiety, and this has become an epidemic in the last 15 years, I'd say, because we are genuinely so overstimulated by social media, and we are constantly comparing our lives to these perfectly curated lives of other people's on social media. And that is just not the truth. That's just stressing ourselves out even more. Something that I think is so important, and I cover this with all of my clients, and it was a key part for my healing journey, is making sure you are so careful with who you follow on your social medias, so careful with the content you consume, because what my Instagram feed used to look like probably just 3 or 4 years ago is completely different to what it looks like now. It used to just be people who, in my eyes, were living this perfect life, they looked perfect, they wore perfect clothes, and I, for some reason, wanted to see that. Whereas now it's real accounts, it's people who are providing me value, who are in some way educating me or just making me feel happy. Any account that makes me feel happy, whatever that means, then that's a follow. But it's so important because you're consuming that content. Let's be real, we spend a lot of time on these social media apps every single day, usually. So the content you're consuming there is obviously going to have an effect on your mental state. So yeah, be really careful with who you follow. So, is my nervous system dysregulated? This is actually a question that I probably get asked the most in my DMs on Instagram. So I post about the nervous system a lot and about it being dysregulated. And I get a lot of people saying, how do I know? Well, the human body is actually meant to be living in the parasympathetic nervous system state. So that's the opposite of the fight or flight system. So this is the rest, digest, and repair, which just sounds lovely. So that's the state that the body is able to focus on recovery, it's able to focus on healing, and it's just maintaining balance. So homeostasis, balance, that is within the rest, digest, and repair system. So in that system, our body has the time and the energy to focus on digestion, making sure that we're breaking down and absorbing all of the nutrients from the food that we're eating. And our body needs that nutrients. That nutrients goes in as fuel for all of our cells, and it makes everything work properly. When we're in this state, our body can actually relax and it can feel safe, which especially as women is so important. If we don't feel safe, all of our hormones are going to be on some crazy roller coaster. So we have to try to make our body feel safe as much as we can. And then also when we're in rest, digest, and repair, this also means that our amazing natural healing mechanisms can finally take place. So your body wants to heal you. It wants to be in a state of balance. It certainly doesn't want disease. So your body is really working for you and not against you. But we unfortunately are living in this chronic fight, flight, freeze situation. And this means that we're not giving our body that healing environment that it needs to feel its best and to get into that state of balance. So a lot of the time, our body is trying as hard as it can, but we are completely unintentionally, most of the time, not giving it what it needs. So you may have heard of the HPA axis. So this is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's always an absolute mouthful. So this is what triggers the release of the stress hormones, so cortisol, adrenaline, when the body perceives some stress or some danger. So think of cortisol and adrenaline as the accelerators. So if it's a car, they are accelerating, and that's the stress response. So when that HPA axis is chronically stimulated, so we're chronically stressed, then this is just meaning we're going to have cortisol levels really raised, cortisol's racing around our blood all the time. This can actually suppress your immune system, so it can mean that you get sick more easily. This can prevent your natural healing mechanisms from taking place because you're not in your rest, your digest, and your repair. And it can contribute to chronic inflammation and disease. So chronic inflammation is pretty much at the root of every single disease that we suffer from. There's only one disease in the world that exists, and that's a sodium deficiency, so salt deficiency, where inflammation doesn't play a part. One issue. Everything else, inflammation plays a huge part, and chronic inflammation, which is also called systemic inflammation, plays a huge part in so many chronic diseases. And then we have the vagus nerve. So if you're into yoga or meditation, you may have already heard of the vagus nerve. It's amazing, and it is the brake in this situation. I realised I spelled brake wrong there. So it's the brake, and it's there to bring you back down to this neutral state of calm and of relaxation. Vagus nerve is incredible, and we'll go into it in a little bit more detail in a moment because it's probably my favourite topic in this whole workshop. But first, we're just going to go through this list of reasons why you might have a dysregulated nervous system. And I'm sure you may relate to some of these. I think we all probably relate to at least a few of them, if not all of them in some situations. So obviously chronic stress and burnout, that's everything I've spoken about so far, but also trauma has a huge impact on the nervous system. So as I already said, our body, when we have the stress response, our body wants to fight or it wants to run away. If we don't do either of those things, or we can't do either of those things, then what can happen is our body can get stuck in a state of nervous system dysregulation. And this can look, there's two kind of parts to this. You can either get stuck on, which is where you're still in your fight or flight mode. So that's often where people have really high levels of anxiety and they are really, they have basically, it's a lot more obvious that they might be in that state of nervous system dysregulation. And then some people can go past this and move into a state of being stuck off, which is basically where you're stuck in the freeze response. So the freeze response is, again, it's there to technically save your life. So I always think about the analogy of if, say, a rabbit is being chased by a fox or something, and it knows that it can't run away quick enough, and it knows it can't fight it off because the threat's too big, it will go into this third nervous system response, which is freeze. So it will just probably play dead and freeze and fall to the floor. There's a few reasons. One, the fox might think that maybe it's ill or maybe it's already dead and it doesn't want to eat that. It takes away the thrill of the chase and all of that. And also it can be a protective mechanism for the rabbit in many ways. So it can try to save its life. So humans, we do the exact same thing. If we're stuck in this state of fight or flight, but we can't utilize those tools and our body can't expend that energy, then often we can go into this further state of freeze. The problem is, unless we then complete that nervous system response that we didn't get to complete, we get stuck here. And for a lot of people, this looks like it can kind of, it's a whole spectrum, but it can start from just being kind of dissociated, unfulfilled, lacking purpose and lacking joy, all the way to full-blown depression. So these two nervous system dysregulation states, so many people are completely unknowingly stuck in these states. And that's another reason why nervous system regulation practices are so important. Even if people don't realize it's what they need, it can be the missing link for so many people. So that's a little explanation about trauma as well, because in a lot of traumatic situations, we are not able to complete the nervous system response, and then we can get either stuck on or stuck off. Adverse childhood experiences kind of linked to trauma. So those are just obviously childhood traumas, things that have happened from a young age, because when we're at a young age, that is when our brain and our nervous system is developing. It's at those really crucial stages where it can make a longer impact. It certainly doesn't mean that if those things have happened, that you can't then get your nervous system to a state of regulation at a later, as an adult. But it's just being aware that that can cause more issues with your nervous system. Personality traits. This is a very interesting one. So things like perfectionism and people pleasing that a lot of us, I think especially women, fall into or are pressured into from a young age. Be a good girl, make sure everyone around you is happy and taken care of and all of these things. So that is just stressing you out mentally all the time. It's draining, it's expending a lot of your energy, and that can cause nervous system dysregulation. All of the obvious ones, so any kind of malnourishment, if your body is feeling undernourished, then that is stressing your body out. Your body wants to know that it has enough food, it has enough sleep and energy, it has all of these things to protect itself if it needed to against a threat. So if the body feels underfueled in any way, then that is going to cause your body to feel more stressed. And then the last one is vagal nerve fatigue, which we will talk more about in just 1 second. So the last sciencey part of this workshop is just about the vagus nerve. As I said, it's my favorite part. So it's such an important piece of the puzzle. And as I said already, if you think of the stress hormones as the car's accelerator, then the vagus nerve is the car's brake. So the vagus nerve's job is to literally bring you back down from that stress response to a lovely state of calm and balance, rest, digest, repair. However, over time, if we are living in this state of chronic stress, then our vagus nerve gets fatigued and it can no longer do its job properly. This then creates this really horrible cycle of we feel chronically stressed, but the vagus nerve's not bringing us back down. So then we feel even more stressed, and this just continues. So luckily for us, we can stimulate our own vagus nerve to get it back online and get it back working properly, which is such a powerful thing. So I'm going to show you in a moment some techniques that we can do. There's just some little self massages to stimulate our own vagus nerve. And again, these are some tools that I use almost every single day. And since I've used them, I can feel the difference in my own state, which is amazing. I love when you can really notice something. Even instantly, you can notice the change in your state, mental and physical. So how can I regulate my nervous system? So this is the juicier part of the workshop. This is the stuff that you want to take home and you want to use. So what can we do about it? How can we get ourselves out of this state of chronic stress and back into our rest, our digest, and our repair? So obviously there are the basics. Things like exercise. So exercise, yes, it's great for you in so many ways, but when it relates to the stress response, we actually sweat out stress hormones when we exercise. So it's a fantastic way when we've had a stressful situation, a stressful day. When we're exercising, we are actually in many ways completing that stress response, even if we didn't get to at the time. So exercise is amazing. Nutrition. So as I said, our body needs that right fuel to function properly and to make sure that we're not stressing our body out even more. A huge one that I see with clients is not hydrating, not drinking enough water throughout the day. And at least 70% of your body is made of water. So if you are not drinking enough water, that is stressing your body out every single day. It's a really, really important one. And it seems so simple, but so many of us aren't drinking enough water. Good sleep. So scientifically, when we've had a good night's sleep, we are so much more able to deal with our stresses. So we're so much more resilient. When we're sleep deprived, you probably have had these experiences yourself. When you've had a bad night's sleep, we are so much more irritable. We're so much more short-tempered, and any kind of stress could probably send us into a fight or flight response. Sunlight and vitamin D is a huge one. So obviously, if you're living in a country where there's not much sunlight at certain times of the year or all year round, if you live in the UK, then can be a bit of a difficult one. But vitamin D supplements are also really, really good. So I really recommend taking those if you don't see the sunlight too often. But sunlight does help you regulate your stress hormones like cortisol. And also sunlight, it increases serotonin. So it makes us feel happier, and that makes us feel more able to cope with our stress. Vitamin D also is really important for our brain function. Obviously, the brain is a really important part of the nervous system. So what's healthy for our brain is also healthy for our nervous system. So those are just the really generic, healthy things that we should all do more of anyway. We all know that. But they will impact your nervous system. But there are some other really incredible, simple tools that we can use to calm our nervous system and to help heal our mind and body from years of dysregulation. So these are just 4 of my personal favorites. So number 1, deep breathing. We've already done the breath work, so don't worry, I'm not going to put you through it again. But when we are breathing deeply and specifically into our belly, so when we're inhaling, our belly is getting bigger. When we're exhaling, our belly is getting smaller. This is using our diaphragm. So the diaphragm is the muscle that's just sitting below like your ribs here. And this is reducing stress. This is calming the nervous system. And it's also training your diet. The more you do belly breathing, you'll notice over time it becomes much easier to stick your belly out even further. So you're actually expanding the space between your ribs here, and you're strengthening and stretching your diaphragm. One of my favorite phrases when it comes to coaching is, if you want to be better at something, do it more. No one is a specialist when they start something. So you have to just try, just do it, even if you're not good at it. I remember when I first started doing breath work, I was like, this is really hard. Shouldn't this be easy? It's just breathing. No, nothing's easy when you know how, until you know how. Number 2, laugh and smile. So this is So easy if we think about it. Even if you're in a bad mood and you force yourself to smile, even if you are in that moment where you don't even want to feel happier because of whatever's going on, you will naturally just feel a little bit happier. So it's really important to do stuff every single day which makes you laugh, makes you smile. This includes spending time with really positive people, people who make you feel happy and safe to be yourself, who you can have a giggle with. Joy is such an important part of health. And I never knew this for so long that I kind of thought that to be healthy, in many ways, you have to suppress the things that bring you joy, because I thought that the things that bring you joy are all unhealthy. Little did I know how much I now love yoga and meditation. So anyway, so doing stuff like watching a comedy clip, like I love Michael McIntyre. I'm not afraid to say it. Like I'll happily sit and watch a 5-minute clip of his if I'm having a bad day, and it will make me feel better. So this is increasing the endorphins that are rushing around your body, it's reducing the stress hormones, and it's activating that parasympathetic response. So if you think about it, your body can't feel, it won't laugh or smile if you're in a really stressful situation. So this is just telling your body that we are safe and we're able to go straight into rest, digest, and repair. The third one, this is actually kind of hard for a lot of people, myself included. Slow down. So the quickest and easiest way of regulating your nervous system is by simply slowing down. I'm trying to talk as slowly as possible, but my natural way is to literally go, I talk quickly, I walk quickly, I eat quickly, all of these things. I think quickly, my thoughts come to me at a million miles an hour. So trying really consciously to slow things down is a really, really amazing way to instantly regulate your nervous system. And then the fourth one is the vagus nerve massage. So if you feel like it, we can give this a go together. We'll just try a few of them quickly. But before we go into this, just know that yawns are a really good sign. So yawns are a sign that your nervous system is discharging. So don't try and hold them in, don't try and cover them. Just if they come, let them out. And also, as we're doing this, just try and stay nice and relaxed in your body, especially the face muscles. We often hold so much tension in our jaw and behind our eye sockets, like our scalp and everything. So if you just try and make a bit of an effort to relax that as we go, and also belly breathing. Try to not be breathing into your chest cavity too much, to just be expanding that belly down there. So my favorites are, if you want to keep your face looking forward and don't move your head, but just bring your eyes to look as far over to the right hand side as you can, and just keep them there for a moment. So stay looking at something that you can see on the right, but keep your head looking forward. And you might feel quite a strain behind your eyes, which probably tells you should do this a little bit more often. And just stay there looking for a moment, nice deep breathing. And then you can look forward again. So what this is doing is this is stretching the muscles behind your eye, and all of this is attached to the vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve goes from the bottom of your gut all the way up and through your head. And so now we'll just do the other side. So look straight forward and then turn just your eyeballs over to the, and make sure you're deep breathing. When it comes to tasks like this, don't be afraid to make your breath very loud and vocal. A nice deep sigh can really discharge our nervous system as well. And then bring your gaze forward again. So already you might feel, I don't know, your eyes might feel a little bit funny. It might take a second to readjust. But already I can feel a little bit of change. Now the next one, it's going to be a bit hard for me to do this in headphones, but the next one is, if you bring your hands up, if you've seen Star Trek, then basically you're doing the Star Trek fingers like this, and you just want to bring them either side of your ear. So 2 fingers in front and then 2 fingers behind. I'm going to try and do this with my headphones on. And you just gently rub up and down. Do it at do both sides at once and do it at whatever pressure feels good. So for some people, quite a light pressure might feel nice. So you're just going up and down. So your fingers are rubbing just across the tragus part of your ear and just behind your ear as well. For me, it actually feels quite nice if I do like a firm pressure and quite slowly. So what you're doing is the auricular branch of the vagus nerve attaches into the ear. So when we're massaging anything on the ears or around the ears, we're stimulating our vagus nerve, which is a really useful tool. If you're about to go into a meeting or you're just in a stressful situation, you can do this for just 30 seconds and naturally it's stimulating your vagus nerve and that break is coming on. So the next one is take just your index fingers on both sides. And again, this is another ear one. That was a bit hard for me to show you. But basically, you just put your fingers into your ears. I'll show you on this side. And then just that back piece of cartilage at the back of your ear, you're just going to rub up and down, just in a C shape. Again, whatever pressure feels good for you. And you're just stimulating a different part of the vagus nerve. I'm hoping you can hear me. I've only got one side of my headphones on. So you just do that at the same time, both of them. It's just like a C shape at the back of your ear. So you're just rubbing that. This one, when I do it, always makes me yawn. I can almost feel a yawn coming on just thinking about it. So just give that a nice relax. And again, make sure you're breathing into your belly and focusing on just relaxing the rest of your body as well. And then after that one, the only other ones I'll show you today are just the super intuitive ones that you probably already do when you're in a stressful situation or you feel a bit stressed. And that is simply just your temple rub. So this one here, I do this all the time. Even when I'm not stressed, it just feels so nice. And then the other one is just here. So it's just massaging where your sinuses are, your sinuses. And again, I'd probably do quite a gentle pressure here. But this is all going to be releasing tension in your face, stimulating the vagus nerve, and bringing you back into a parasympathetic state, which is where we want to be. So that's all of the vagus nerve massages you've got. Oh, there actually are a lot more that exist. So if you want any more, then just drop me a message afterwards and I can send you a link to some more that I use with clients. But those vagus nerve massages, the more you do them, the better it's called vagal nerve tone. So think about like toning your muscles. Vagal nerve tone will get better and better over time. So if you're someone who finds it hard to bring yourself back down from the stress response, then doing that every single day or as much as you can will make such a difference. So, where am I? Okay. Starting to wrap up now. So I just want to leave you with a few last pointers. So this one is, remember, any activity done with love and presence is a spiritual practice. So very interestingly, there's another statistic I'll throw at you. It's estimated that 95% of our brain activity daily is completely unconscious. So we're so ingrained into our habits and our beliefs and just the ways of doing stuff that we go through most of our life unconscious. So this is our habits, our patterns, our automatic body functions, creativity, emotions, even our personality traits, beliefs, values, cognitive biases, and also our long-term memory. So almost all of that is unconscious most of the time. So practicing bringing your awareness to what you're doing and focusing on being present as much as you can throughout the day. I call them with my clients somatic moments. So it's just taking 1 minute here or there throughout the day to just close your eyes, drop into your body. And I like to do these little practices where you just think about, okay, can I put all of my attention right now into my right index finger and just see how much you could, because you can feel it, you can begin to feel it tingling and you can really put all of your energy and your sensations into there. It doesn't have to be your right index finger. You can choose any of your 10 fingers, any of your 10 toes. You can choose your left knee if you fancy. So those little moments just help you bring awareness and bring yourself back into the present moment. So focusing on being present and being conscious more and more throughout the day is such an amazing way to keep your nervous system regulated, and also to just feel happier, feel more joy, feel more connection to the people around you, feel more connection to yourself. It's all, being present is the ultimate goal. And then one of my favorite memes when it comes to the nervous system is, hey, sorry, I missed your text. I am processing an endless stream of information with a brain wired to forage quietly in nature. I couldn't relate more to this. We are literally, as I said, we're living with brains that our ancestors had almost 20,000 years ago, essentially. So be gentle with yourself. This is not an easy environment for us to be living in many ways. There are so many things that we can do. Tiny, tiny changes make huge impact always. You cannot heal without a regulated nervous system. So it really is the foundation for all healing, whether that's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual. And so this is the golden rule. You cannot heal a body that you hate. So we have to learn to build a loving relationship with ourselves. And in a society where women are often pitted against each other, and we're also taught to hate any part of ourselves that doesn't fit this image of society's perfection, it's not always an easy task. But it just starts with being compassionate with yourself. And when things aren't going your way, which is going to happen in life, happens to all of us all the time, we make mistakes. Be compassionate, be kind to yourself, and most of all, listen to the language that you are using when you're talking to yourself. Does it sound like the language that you would use talking to your best friend or your sister or your mum? And if it's not, why not? You should be your own best friend. We have to learn to befriend ourselves. I think it's the main thing that we weren't taught as we were growing up. Most of us, depends on your parents, I guess. But so when we're punishing ourselves for mistakes or for anything really, criticizing ourselves, we're only adding to the stress of that situation. We are only worsening it. That is not helping. And that is why you cannot heal a body you hate, because you are just putting your body through more and more and more stress than it needs. So if this sounds like something that you struggle with, which I definitely did, then we cover it. I think it's such a beautiful process, and we cover it in one-to-one coaching. Learning to love, support, respect, and prioritize myself quite literally changed my life. And it continues to change the lives of the people I work with every day, which is such a beautiful thing to witness. So thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you coming and spending this time on your evening, or Nicole, I assume it's your morning. I'm not sure what time it is. But yeah, you're investing in yourselves, you're investing your time and your energy into your health, and you'll absolutely reap the rewards of it. So I have an exciting offer for you, which is £150 off any of my one-to-one health coaching programs, which is an exclusive discount for those people watching the workshop live, or anyone who's watching the replay within the first 5 days, because this offer only lasts until Christmas Eve. So if it's something that you're interested in, then get in there. But also, if you're thinking this period, the Christmas period, is really busy right now, then don't stress, because you can, if you pay the deposit within the next 5 days, you can start coaching anytime up until the 31st of January. So you have ages to get organized and to feel like you want to start the new year fresh. It might not be that January 1st. You might be feeling a little bit worse for wear, depending on what your New Year's Eve plans look like. So for any women who are ready to level up and make 2025 their best year yet, then this is for you. Drop me a message on Instagram, or you can use my emails. But this one-time discount is an investment into your health, your happiness, and your future. So I'll just leave you with this, which is some of my client reviews. So my clients are my absolute priority, and we see such amazing results working together, from clearing up acne to having her first ever pain-free period, my client the other day, reversing polycystic ovary syndrome, getting rid of your endometriosis symptoms, coming off the pill naturally, supporting your hormones, feeling 10 times more energy naturally, getting rid of the sugar cravings and the digestive symptoms, the afternoon energy slumps, losing stubborn belly fat, getting rid of the bloating, all of these things we've covered. And it's, yeah, such an honor to be able to help people with this, because every single one of these issues is something that I have struggled with myself. I've been there, I know how it feels, and yeah, I'm here to support and to help. So yeah, and most importantly, building confidence, building self-love, building that beautiful relationship with yourself, and making your mind a really lovely place to be. So that is the end of the workshop, and thank you guys so much for being here. Even though you guys have watched the live one, you'll still get the replay by email. So if there's anything that you want to take notes on, or you just want the slides, then that will be available to you as well. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, obviously, please feel free to put them in the chat box or drop me a message on Instagram or emails. All my blooming love. Right. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for coming.